Welcome to another episode of Mortgage Matters. Every Wednesday with Team Adwar. Here's your host, Todd Adwar. All right. Happy Wednesday. Welcome, Todd. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Tim. What about you?
Very well. Excited for the long weekend. And,
I already started.
Celebration. You already started. Even better. Yes, this is my last official duty before the weekend starts for me. So
very nice.
I'm excited to enjoy everything Greenwich has to offer. I have three lifeguards on duty this weekend in the town of Greenwich.
Right. All your kids are lifeguards, right?
Yeah. So I'm not going anywhere special, but I've got people on the job, so I'm excited.
Yeah. After this, it's to the beach, and then tomorrow to the beach, and then the next day to the beach, and the next day to the beach. So summer's here. Let's enjoy it. This is the time to be in New York and in Connecticut. Okay. Yeah. So let's do the Mortgage Matters update like we do every week. The rates for the week, the 30-year fixed conventional was up slightly, 7.11. Again, if you're looking for a better opportunity and you're not putting down 20%, we say FHA is better. It's 6.54 is the interest rate nationally on a 30-year. 15-year fix, they come in at 6.51, slightly higher than last week. Jumbos, 7.31. Now, I did this Monday afternoon. Mm-hmm. I think the rates are going to ease back a little bit. We've had a couple of good days, so maybe they're a little bit lower, but this is close enough. Also, look, you may
what's the line for the jumbo? What turns it into a jumbo? Where's the line?
Yeah, it's 750,000 in most areas, and in some areas it's 1,150,000, depending on where you live in the country.
Right.
So you may be surprised to find out how expensive it is to sell your home.
Yeah.
So according to Clever Real Estate, the number to sell your home in 2024 in the United States is now $54,616. And you can see from that chart what that includes. And I know you have some thoughts about that, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what's surprising, and the reason why I said you may be surprised, is because in this survey that they did, 42% of all sellers, after they sold their home, said they were really surprised with how much it cost them to sell.
Right.
And while it's not all realtor related, it's certainly things that, costs that you incur.
Sure. Yeah, right off the top. Well, first of all, I'll bring up that you have the listing agent, buying agent being almost just over 20 grand, a full half of that cost going to real estate commissions. And that was a huge issue this spring with that lawsuit, and our commissions are negotiable. I have had the experience where they renegotiated my commission at the closing table. So my customers have always known that it's negotiable, and I've been hit at the closing table with negotiations. Really? Yeah, trying to make a deal, whatever, things go south, people aren't happy, and you're trying to make a deal because you don't want to walk out of the room without a deal. You have to acquiesce. But I've always educated my buyers and sellers that it's negotiable. So but yeah, so it's understandable that that's almost half. The one I wanted to touch on was repairs.
Right.
If you're doing that properly, those repairs, while it's an upfront expense, you get most of the time 100% of that money back in your sale price. There's no doubt in my mind that if somebody's paying 10 grand, especially around here where the prices are, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if they're dropping 10 grand, painting, new shrubs, something out front, they get 100% of that back. I can't tell you the amount of times that people make little improvements that just, bring the house up a notch.
It's funny that you say that, because I had somebody in their home was sitting on the market for a couple of months. They went out and they painted the outside of the house to give it some curb appeal. And they wound up, it cost them like $5 grand to paint the outside of the house or something like that. I don't remember the exact amount. And their number went up by like 30,000 like that. It was like, boom. and all of a sudden they had multiple offers again because it wasn't an eyesore from the street.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that.
Curb appeal is worth every penny that you put out there. And you know, there's lists and factors of, you know, kitchens and bathrooms will get you, you know, 1.5 times your money back and all that stuff. Everything you do will not everything you do, but if you're not drastically changing the style and everything of your house, you know, to your own taste. But if you're freshening up the place and making it clean, neat, well kept, then you're going to get 100% of your money back. And
Right.
your realtor or professional is going to be able to help you make those choices. You know, so don't go redesigning a bathroom or changing the layout of the house, but you know, those those repaired at 10 grand will come back to you multiplied. So, you know, that could offset this whole cost of doing things if you do it right.
Right. So you wanted to talk about your local market and my local market, and then we wanted to talk about, you know, the market nationally. So why don't you tell everybody what your market looks like?
You had one more slide before we move on to that one. You had pending home sales.
Yeah.
That were changing.
Okay. So pending home sales fell year over year in all four major regions, Tim.
Yep.
The South experienced the largest yearly decline. In fact, it was 10.4% month over month. Sales were down in the Northeast, 1.1%, Midwest minus 4.4%, and the South minus 5.5%, while the West saw a 1.4% increase, but still a 2.1% yearly decline. So what does that mean? It just means that less homes are changing hands this year over last year. We've seen that because of the higher rates, I think, with rates around 7, and we'll get into what the rates are doing and where they're going in a second. But you know what? When you talk nationally and we throw these things out, the Northeast, the South, there's a lot of people that live in the South or the Northeast, and then it becomes more regionalized. And I don't want the viewers out there to misunderstand that just because we give you a national taste, a national flavor, that your local market might be slightly different. So that's why Tim and I wanted to do our local markets.
Yep. So I do have, you know, they say all real estate is local. You know, you talk about the broader market and what's happening, and you're the rates that are all national numbers. Here, I've been a Greenwich local for since 2003. So just wanted to spotlight this area. This week, the median list price is for Connecticut in 06830, 5.4, almost 5.5 million, with the market action index hovering around 35, which is a little less than last month, which was 38. And the inventory has increased to 61. We'll take a deeper look at that down the line here. Let me pull this down. But here's your market profile starting to cool off in prices. They recently plateaued since in this seller zone. So watch for changes in that market action index. And prices will likely follow suit. That drops consistently or falls into the buyer zone, then watch for downward pressure on the sales prices. So if you're looking at these graphs, that'll tell you a little bit about it. I like to go down to the inventory. That's on the market here. I think I have a big graph on this one, because what this points out is that the 90-day moving average, but pre-pandemic levels, we were up over 200 listings at this time of the year. Then you had the pandemic. And so as we see, we're climbing back up. It looks like, oh, we're getting more inventory. People don't get nervous because, like I said, pre-pandemic numbers are a lot higher than what they are right now. And because spring market ended, now we're in the summer market, we're peaking at the inventory or the sales numbers for this season. So we'll see some things happen this summer, but the peak spring season selling season is now over, and we're going to go into the summer months, which is traditionally a little more quiet. So, you know, this number is going to peak out right here and start to fade off, I think, a little bit for sales.
What are the seller's taxes when they sell a home in Connecticut, Tim? When a seller sells his home in Connecticut, do you know what the taxes are locally?
You mean the sales tax for the
if I'm selling my home in your town, New York, for example, it's $4 per thousand. So if I'm selling a house for $1 million, it's $4,000, so on and so forth. Do you know what the tax is in Connecticut? I'm going to make a point in a minute, because a lot of states have raised their taxes recently on sellers. Do you know what it is in Connecticut, or
I don't have that number.
Okay.
Exactly.
So something interesting that I saw this week was about a year ago, California, and a bunch of other states, but let me just give California, especially in a neighborhood like yours, on all homes in California that sell over $5 million, they're charging a 4% mansion tax to the seller.
Right.
And over $10 million, they're charging a 5.5% tax. So if you're selling a $5 million house, somebody pays $5 million, they're paying $200,000 extra to the state. Right. And in the first year, Tim, California got an extra $225 million in taxes from these mansion taxes that they put into place.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, these are big numbers. Now, look, most people aren't going to sell a house in their lifetime over $5 million. But in New York, they have a mansion tax at $1 million. And certainly that comes into play a lot more than when they initiated it, say 15, 20 years ago, when the mansion tax came in. They haven't raised the mansion tax in New York to go along with inflation. In 2000, the mansion tax was anything over $1 million. And now, wait a second, it's still anything over $1 million when there are so many homes that are selling over $1 million. So I thought that was something that I wanted to touch on, that the states are really, looking at the sellers' pockets and the profits that they've made to come in and swoop in and take some of that money from you.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Anyway, getting into interest rates again, we had Lawrence Yun, and he's the head economist for the National Association of Realtors. And what he said this week was that Americans should never, and I concentrate on the word never, expect to see 3% interest rates again in their lifetime. What he cited was the COVID-19 lockdown and the massive monetary stimulus as the reason rates fell so low. Okay, I get that. And he emphasized that, basically historically rates have been around 7%, which is where they are now. And he says, while you might see, slightly lower rates, he says, don't bet on getting lucky again and seeing 3%. I want to thank Lawrence for spreading some good holiday cheer, make everybody happy, Lawrence. Way to go. Yeah. So, that brings us to, what do we see until the end of the year? And, the so-called air quotes experts are talking about maybe a cut in September now, and then maybe a second cut by the end of the year.
Right.
They've been back and forth from no cuts to 6 cuts. So November of last year, the experts were 4 to 6 cuts.
Right.
Now it's, then it went down to 0 cuts, no cuts until February of 25. Right. And now we're back to maybe 2. So it's all over the place. I do see them making a cut in September. And what that's going to do, buyers and sellers, it's going to get some people off the fence. So the correct move is to go out and buy now, because even though come September, the rates are going to have that cut baked in, and they may even be baked in by next week. So it'll already be in where the rates are going. But if you wait, all of a sudden everybody's going to hear, oh, they cut rates again. And all these people on the sidelines, Tim, are going to jump in. And then that house that you could have gotten for $700 now is going for $740 with 5 bids on it. And you're kicking yourself in the head. Why didn't I buy a house this time? If you're not buying a house now, it's on you. It's not on the bidding wars. In most markets, it's on you, not the bidding wars. We're seeing a lot less bidding wars. You may lose something on a bidding war, Tim, but if you go out and you're looking at it and you're prepared to make offers on 3-4 houses, you're getting one of them now. You're
Right.
not being outbid on all four like it was,
Yeah.
say a year
Last
and a
year.
half
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. And there's people in the camp that, oh, the whole thing's going to fall apart. As you saw from the inventory, we're a long way from things falling apart. So I think that the market's going to stay relatively strong and back to a normalized market. Everybody likes to say either buyer's market or seller's market. I think we're strongly in a normalized market. So given the
Yeah,
rates, given the
I
rates,
think
a
you're
little bit
right.
of fluctuation, I think that's good for the market. I see one more coming in September. I think it's going to happen right before the election. I think that matters to a lot of people moving around. So I think that one rate cut showing that direction of the Fed will be beneficial to the real estate market, and then people can feel comfortable about moving around again a little bit more.
And in speaking to some clients this week, Tim, first-time homebuyer clients,
Hmm.
um, many of the clients that I spoke to, I did a class. Many of the clients that I spoke to, their biggest problem was their down payment. And
Right.
I want you to put out to everybody who's watching this that almost every state in the country has a down payment assistance program.
Right.
And here across country, we have information on every state in the country, what the down payment assistance programs are, how to get the down payment assistance. And I'll give you an example. In the state of New York, did you know if it's a family of three, if you're making less than $230,000 a year as a family, do you know that you don't have to put any money down as a down payment to buy a home?
Wow.
So if you're sitting on the sidelines because woe is me, I don't have any money to buy the house, well, you don't need any. And in
Right.
fact, not only can you put no money out of pocket, but the seller's allowed to pay your closing costs. So you should reach out to me and we'll get you, we'll push you forward, not only in getting you into a home with no money, but getting you to the right realtors who know who the sellers are that'll accept these types of offers. Because there's no reason to make an offer on a house if the seller doesn't understand this type of financing. And I've gone out of our way to help some buyers do that. And finally, we have some interesting things going on with off-market homes, Tim.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are interested in seeing what their home would go for, but they don't necessarily want to list their home.
Yes.
And we probably have 30 or 40 off-market homes at this juncture that if you want to not compete on a house and you want them to have some flexible financing and flexible timeframes because they weren't going to sell their home, give us a shout.
Yeah.
That I'm finding that anybody who's done that has really won. We had one woman, she bought a house in Bayshore, which is Long Island. She bought it for $350,000, and we gave her a rehab loan. The construction was going to be $200,000, and the appraiser said the value was going to be $700,000 when she was done. So pretty good considering, no bid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm an associate broker with the Grand Lux Realty. We have over 200 realtors. We have a list in-house of houses that are not on the market yet, and either sitting there waiting to see what the market's doing or about to be listed. So yeah, definitely reach out, and that's a good thing. I was able to do a quick search on your Connecticut answer, so it's 0.75% of the first 800,000. So
significant amount.
They're raising some money in Connecticut as well. Not as steep as California though.
Right, but look for it to go up after the election.
Right.
So nobody wants to raise the taxes 3 months before they have to get reelected. But, the states are having some problems with, how much money they're bringing in. And sellers, that may motivate you to sell now versus waiting until, next year, where you might have to pay a bigger portion of what you sell to the state.
To the tax man.
Yeah. Tim, that's all for me today. You have anything else?
Yeah, no, that's great. I wish everybody a happy Independence weekend. Stay safe and use a lot of sunscreen.
Everybody enjoy July 4th, and let's remember why we're celebrating. Let's be nice to each other. July 4th was to give us independence and to let us run our country with freedom. So let's not trample on other people's freedoms while we're living our own. Have a great day, and we'll speak next week on the 11th or on the 10th.
Sounds great.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yep. 11 a.m. every Wednesday. See you then.
Have a great holiday. Bye-bye.